Hello, bridge builders! I'm here with some exciting news. The first volume of interviews is now available on Amazon.com. The link can be found at eatlunchandboardgame.com. I promise that all proceeds from sales of this book will go right back into this podcast and channel. Whether that is new and better audio equipment for the podcast or video equipment for the YouTube channel, or even more games to review, the money will not be wasted. Click over to Amazon and get your copy of Eat Lunch and Board Game, the first course today. And thank you for supporting the show. I first came across C.J. Connor's debut cozy novel, Bored to Death, my usual way. I simply searched Board Game in the library online catalog. I recognized that I had not read it, so I immediately checked it out. After about 2 whole chapters, I just decided to buy it. Edward read it before I had the chance because, well, he's not old enough to drive, and I had to drive when we were on vacation. Anyway, we both loved it, and I reached out to CJ to be on the show. CJ and I talked the usual, and when the next book is due out. Also, CJ has an interesting connection to the narrator of the audiobook version of this book. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to Lunch and Board Game. I'm your host, Adam Collins, and with me today is CJ Connor, an author and game enthusiast. CJ, where are you calling in from?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I'm calling from northern Utah, so the general Salt Lake City area.
Gee, wonder how that, played out in your book. So, CJ, I came across your book, as I do most books in our library, by just searching Board Game, and it popped up, and I'm like, well, I haven't read this one before. So I checked it out and gave it a read, and so it is a murder mystery cozy set around a board game shop in Utah. Can you talk about what a cozy is?
Yeah, so a cozy mystery, they're kind of styled after like traditional Sherlock Holmes, Agatha Christie style mysteries. So little to no violence, swearing, any graphic details. They usually have a theme. So a lot of them are set in bookstores or like tea shops, places that kind of have a cozy, close-knit atmosphere. They're also usually a little bit more humorous. So the purpose of them isn't so much like, the gritty details of a murder mystery, but more like solving a puzzle, which makes them kind of fun to read and write.
Yeah, and I gotta be honest, I kind of got into a cozy kick. I don't even know why, but so I was like super stoked to find a cozy that had to do with board games. So I was like, well, gotta get this book. So I got it, took it on vacation with me. And my son, who's 12, actually read it before I got to it because, he can't drive or take turns driving. So he was just sitting in the back of the car and read it really fast. And he's like, oh, you got to finish this, Dad. I'm like, well, yeah, but I got to drive too. So, but yeah, I got through it finally when we got home, actually. So, yeah, it was awesome. I really enjoyed it. Anybody who likes a cozy, likes board games, or, both, give it a shot. It's called Bored to Death, Board, Bored to Death, and it was very fun. So how long did it take you to write the book?
Well, yeah, first of all, I'm honored that you and your son both liked it. I tried to make it, something that like people of all ages could enjoy. I think that's one of the positive things about like the cozy mystery genre is like I feel like it appeals to like a broad variety of people. As far as how long it took me to write, I started it during the pandemic, so 2020. Yeah.
That's when I started this podcast.
Oh, really? That's awesome. I feel like a lot of creative things happened while people were at home and couldn't do anything. But yeah, my husband is a really avid board game fan, and through him, I've kind of gotten into it as well. And, when we were at home, I kind of missed like the welcoming atmosphere of board games, or board game shops, sorry. And I also was reading a ton of cozy mysteries because, comfort reads during stressful times. And it surprised me that there weren't any, at least I could find, with a board game shop setting. Especially with a lot of board games, especially like the classic ones that people know, like Clue, being based around a mystery of some sort. So I thought I'd try my hand at it. Um, the first draft and revisions took about 6 months, and then from there I pitched it to my agent, or I pitched it to a variety of agents. And then 6 months later, in mid 2021, I got signed on with my agent Jessica Faust. And then from there, the from getting the agent to signing on with the publisher took another 6 months. So in total, between the first draft and revisions, both with my agent and then my publisher Kensington, about 2 years, I would say.
It's not bad. I mean, what else do you have to do other than sit at home, right?
That's true, especially during that specific time period. It
Right.
was, yeah, it was very
That
fulfilling to do.
gave you something to do with your idle time, right?
Yeah, totally.
No, that's awesome. And, I saw it. I like to play on words. And I was like, oh, I'll read this. And I rented it from the library. I read about, I don't know, the first like two chapters. I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and buy it. So I, I
Oh,
just went and bought it instead. And it was like, that way somebody else can find it at the library while I read it. So a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, my son really enjoyed it. He read it in, I think, like, a day and a half, like, just over a day. It's nice to be able to read fast. And I wouldn't know. I always joke that I read at the level of a college graduate at the speed of an 8-year-old. So,
oh, yeah,
it,
I get
so
that.
yeah, it just happens. And, I don't read fast, but I do read a lot. So,
Hmm.
um, that's awesome. So your husband's got you into gaming, which is always good. At least there's more of us out there trying to get more people into gaming. The more of
Yeah,
us, the better.
yeah, no, absolutely. Growing up, I played a lot of board games at family reunions mostly, but they were more of like, like the crowd pleasers, Clue, Ticket to Ride, stuff like that. So when I started dating my husband, he started getting me into more like niche board games, and I didn't realize there was a whole community around it. So that was a lot of fun to learn about and kind of be a part of.
Yeah, and then once you find out about it, you're like, wow, there's a lot of weird people like me out there playing games.
Yeah, exactly. While my husband was still finishing his degree, we'd go to a weekly board game night at the university, and it was a really good way to meet people. I feel like, so I'm a little bit more of like an introverted, shy kind of person. So I feel like board games were a good way to kind of break the ice and
Yeah,
like get to know people without like having a ton of pressure to like figure out small talk and all that. So that made me even more endeared to them.
yeah. I use them a lot at the all like my past jobs to bring the different divisions of the company together. Kind of a safe place, a place to forget about work for half an hour to an hour and just kind of get to meet get, like you said, get to meet people and get to know them and kind of a neutral area.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I work at home at the moment, but my uncle, he told me before that he used to do a D&D session during the lunch breaks at his work, just like a really small one, like over
Yeah,
time. And it seemed like a really good way for him to kind of bond, with his coworkers.
yeah, we had one going at my old office before COVID, and then we started
Hmm.
doing it online, and then everybody kind of went their separate ways. Like it happens. I think we only have like two modules left to finish the story, but we haven't played it in about 2 years.
Oh, dang. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
how my husband's D&D group. We had a pandemic one as well, and I think we just have like maybe 2 sessions left, but it's been years at this point.
Yeah, it always happens.
Hmm.
So, what is your current favorite game? If I made it out to Utah, what game is currently sitting on your table?
Yeah, so I like a lot of what my husband calls shape, go, and spot games. So I guess like maybe strategic placement kind of games. I really love Azul. That's probably my favorite.
Ah,
Um, King Domino is another one that I like, especially. I have four little sisters, and the youngest is 9. So that one I feel like I really like playing that one with her because I feel like she can kind of strategize with it in a way that she couldn't with, say, Like my husband really likes Scythe, and that would be way out of her level.
Scythe pushes the level for me. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. I like
yeah,
it, but it takes a lot more brain power. I have to like kind of psych myself up for it.
yeah, oh, absolutely. It's one of those big engine builders that take some time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you said you work from home, so you probably don't play a lot of games on your lunch hour.
No, we
But
used to have an online risk game going.
oh, that's what were you using for that?
Oh, it was some like really like it looked like an early 2000s kind of website. It was not the best build, but it was fun. I can't remember what it was called.
That's awesome. Yeah, if I could,
I
man,
think
that'd be
we stopped
hilarious.
because it shut down.
Oh, I thought that makes sense. That's hilarious. An online,
Yeah.
that might make the game a little faster because you don't have to find the pieces and put them down and roll the dice and chase them around and good
Oh
grief,
yeah,
an online risk.
definitely. It was a better way to play it.
Ugh. But if you were going to play games at your office, if you had an office, what would be your go-to 30-minute lunch half-hour game?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm a big fan of card games, and one that I've been like playing a lot to kind of bond with. If my sister brings their boyfriend over, or we have like a bunch of people, I play a lot of Skull King with them. Um, because that one I feel like is a game that you can introduce to people really quickly. Can get the rules really quickly. So like if you only have an hour, you can teach it to them and then just kind of go. It also seems to be one that like people of various board gaming skill levels seem to enjoy. So I feel like it's a good like crowd pleaser kind of game.
Yeah, that's an old Grandpa Beck game, right?
Yeah, yeah, I love Grandpa Beck. He's pretty big here in Utah.
Yeah, I bet.
hmm
Oh man, yeah, I haven't played that game in a long time.
Yeah, it's
The
a good one.
yeah, I played it. Oh my gosh, pre-pandemic, so it's been wow 5 years probably now.
Oh
Uh,
wow, dang.
it was at some game shop we were at had like their little play, take and play. So we played it at the table. It's a lot of fun. And like you said, it's got a lot of fun to it. Yet it's not a very complex game. It's very approachable.
Yeah, and I feel like people have fun with like the trick taking element of it.
I'm always up for a good trick taking game. I grew up
hmm
in Indiana, so I played a lot of euchre growing up.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
So what about a 60-minute game, a full hour? What are you playing?
Oh, I love Wingspan. That's probably a little bit more up my alley than Scythe. I mean, the art's beautiful for one thing, so I could just like stare at the art for an hour and be happy. um, but I don't know. I like that. You can kind of like. There's a lot of different ways. You can or paths you can take with the game. You can focus on your specific goals, or you can focus on the round ones. Whatever makes sense to you. I like that.
I always find the strategy to come in second. I can never find the strategy to come
Yeah.
in first.
hmm
I'm really good at coming in second, though. I mean, man,
Yeah.
you need somebody to lose to. I'm your guy. Or sorry, you need somebody to beat. Yeah, you're not gonna. You're not
Good
gonna.
to know.
Yeah, I'm not gonna beat
Yeah.
you. You'll beat me. But I'm getting better at Wingspan. It's one of my. The problem is my buddy that has it. He
hmm
plays it all the time online, so he just knows all the birds and when to get them, when not to get them, and yeah, he's really good at it. I just need to play it more,
hmm
I guess. So what about a
Yeah, I feel
hidden
like it is
gem?
one
Oh,
where
go
like
ahead.
the more you practice it, the better you get.
There's a lot of them like that where like you get more familiar with the deck, you get more familiar with what's in there, and the one thing about Wingspan is you don't see all the cards every game. There's no way, and so
hmm
you get a good shuffle and just kind of let it go and see what happens. But
Yeah, no,
that's
especially with the expansions, like there's just so many birds. Didn't know how many birds there were before I got that game.
and they keep finding more birds and more expansions.
Yeah, seriously, it's like when will it end?
I think Stonemeyer's hoping not for a while because they're
Yeah,
they're They're doing good business on that game.
Yeah,
Uh,
seriously. I want to pick up Wormspan at some point.
yeah, I'm more intrigued by that one because I like the idea of having to like dig out the caves and the way the dragons and stuff happen. So yeah, I want to. A group I play with. Um, One of them has it, so I'm hoping that next time we get together, I can sit down and play it.
Hmm.
So what about a hidden gem game, a game that you don't feel like gets enough attention?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I think it gets like a decent amount, but I haven't seen as much as some of the more popular games. But I really like Tiny Towns. I guess
Ooh,
it's another one of those like shape go and spot kind of games, but it just really works with how my brain works. The play strategies.
no, I love Tiny Towns.
Hmm.
That's a good one. I have one of the expansions. I don't remember which one I have. I don't have the other one. I can't remember which one I have. Yeah, I don't play that one enough. Now I want to play it.
Yeah, it's very relaxing.
And it's fun because like you can because everything's out in the open, so you can see what everybody's trying to do, and you can try to strategize on how you can make it hard on them to do what they're trying to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a mix of both. I think ours came with like a really tiny expansion that was like Tiny Trees, a tiny expansion for Tiny Town or something like
Yeah,
that.
I don't. I saw
Yeah,
that
I
one.
love. It's good. It's very cute.
Awesome. Yeah, I love Tiny Towns. I forgot totally about that. It's like one of those games that like when you remember you have it, you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna play this game a lot.
Hmm.
No, that's one of my. Yeah, I need to bust that one back out. It's just sitting on my shelf, collecting dust. I should
Yeah,
take
yeah.
care of
No,
that.
we definitely have ones like that. So I get that.
I think we all do.
Hmm. For Christmas, I got my husband the Deep Rock Galactic board game because he's really into the video game. So and I don't think we've played that one yet, but we're gonna get to it.
I have a whole shelf of games I've been meaning to get to.
Hmm.
It's
Similar to
way too
books in that way.
good. I try. I do have a lot of books. I do read a lot. But yeah, I try to keep that under control. Try to keep my board games under. I'm just not very good. I saw someone that says I don't buy too many books. I just don't read as fast as I buy.
Yeah, exactly. Like I miss when I was in middle school and I could just read like, two thick fantasy books over a weekend. I don't know what happened to my brain, but like I can't quite do that anymore.
Well, that's what my son did. He read an entire trilogy that my sister-in-law like loaned him. He read the whole trilogy in like 2.5, 3 days, and they were big, thick, 400-page books. And I'm like, dude, that would take me like 2 weeks if I was lucky, and you just blew through it in about 7 hours. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know what it is about that time period, but it's like it seems like when you can just really immerse yourself in a book. I guess not having a job probably is why.
yeah,
But
not a lot of stress.
yeah.
So CJ, when you play a game, do you have a specific color that you gravitate towards?
Oh, usually I go for blue, but it seems like everyone else goes for blue. So I usually try to think of a second one, like orange, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
But what you gotta do is you just gotta just tell everybody, no, I'm blue, and deal with it.
Yeah, yeah. I need to be more assertive with it, I guess.
But you have your color. Whether or not you get to play with it, that's a different story. But
Hmm.
you know what you want. Oh, I forgot to ask you. How do you pronounce Klaus Teuber's classic, The Settlers of?
Oh, I've always said Catan. Is there a debate about it?
Yeah, Catan or Catan.
Oh, okay. Now that you mention it, I have heard people call it Catan. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's a Utah thing, but I always say Catan.
It's funny. I need to redo the tally and see, but for a while it was like heavily Catan, then Catan caught up, and then it's Catan, and so I just need to go back and update my pie chart or whatever chart I've got going now for it.
Yeah,
But
is there like an official pronunciation,
I
or is it
believe
just
it's
like,
Catan. I interviewed
oh,
the CEO of Catan Studios, and he said Catan, so I figured if he called it Catan, that's probably right.
That is probably. Oh, that's really cool. I'll have to listen to that episode.
His name was Pete Finland.
Oh, okay. It's German, right?
Yes.
Catan. That makes sense then. Catan sounds a little bit more um, German then. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's probably like a Van Gogh kind of thing.
Yeah. Tomato, tomato, Caribbean, Caribbean.
Hmm.
Catan, Catan. That all fits.
Hmm.
So, how about Kickstarter? Do you ever mess with that?
I do on occasion, like the Deep Rock Galactic board game. Not as much as I should. I should really dive in a little bit more into Kickstarter.
Oh,
But
be careful. It's
on
a money
occasion,
suck.
yeah, that's the thing is, I don't know if financially I should, but I've seen a lot of cool stuff on there.
Financially, I'll tell you right now, you should not.
Yeah.
But you can find some really good stuff on there. Really good games. There's a couple designers that I like that just do print and plays, and they put out one every couple of months, and it's like $3.
Oh wow,
I
that's
just
not too bad.
no, I just grab one and then I play it a few times, and I'm like, I got my $3 worth out of this game.
Hmm.
Like, heck yeah, I've got plenty of dice. I don't need to, I'll just buy some sheets of paper and print it off and go for it.
Yeah, that seems like a safe way to get invested in Kickstarter is go for like, the lower price ones.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a few I've gotten sucked into the big ones, and then I have buyer's remorse after I get it.
Yeah, that's the thing is I feel like I want to like test it out first.
So I've got to ask you, Nerds.
Yeah.
I had never heard of it until I read your book, and I don't want to say it's a major part of the story, but it's a key game that the characters play. So is that like a big game in Utah?
So no, I hadn't heard about it until I was a college student. I had a group of friends who we would go to a support group meeting, and then afterwards we would play Nerds together. In particular, my friend Chris was extremely into Nerds, and like they had ADHD, so I feel like the multitasking element of like all these different decks of cards really worked well for them. So we would just like play it like it felt like constantly back then. I think it is a little bit more of a niche game. Like some people, when I talk about it, they're like, "Oh yeah, our family plays all the time," and then some people just kind of give me a blank look. But I love it.
No, I've never played it, but now I'm gonna try to teach my friends to play it because like I want to play it. I found a couple how tos, and I like how you can buy a Nerds deck on I believe Amazon. I'm like, why? It's just a deck of cards.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It's like
And like the fun thing,
it's like
yeah.
if you go in there and buy a deck for solitaire, like you realize you're just buying a deck of cards, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, I was just curious how you came across Nerds. Sounds like a very interesting game, and I'm gonna try to teach my friends and see if we can play it because like all you need is just a standard deck of cards. So everybody needs their own deck. That's the But who doesn't have 25 decks sitting around their house?
Yeah, exactly. Like, and if you don't, you can just go to like any grocery store. It's a very accessible game.
No, it just reminded me of like euchre and how everybody in my family in my hometown knew how to play euchre, and so I was like, I wonder if Nerds is just something CJ grew up playing. But it's interesting you didn't learn it till college.
Yeah, yeah. No, it feels like it has like summer camp vibes. I feel like the kind of game that you would play over a summer.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, a summer camp game. Yeah,
Hmm.
because you don't need anything other than a deck of cards. You don't need a board, you don't need chips, you don't need dice, you just need a deck of cards. And that, yeah, it sounds great, and I'm gonna have to dabble with Nerds. So
Yeah, I hope you enjoy it.
so you've got Bored to Death out, and it's book
Mhm.
one. And then your next one's called Killer Cube, but I heard some devastating news that it's not going to be out this year.
Yeah, just with some personal things going on, we had to push out the deadline by a year. So I believe it'll be out next fall.
Next fall? I have to wait all the way till next fall now?
Yeah, I mean, I guess,
Oh,
it's kind of like a mystery in itself is, what will it be about and when will it come out?
oh man. No, I'm excited for it though. It's funny how I just kind of randomly. Well, it's like I said, I just go to the library. The kids run around. I go up to the computer and just type in board game and see what comes up. And your
Hmm.
book popped up, and I'm like, well, I'll give this a read. Now I have to wait another year for another one. Man, I was
That
excited.
does.
It was slated to
Oh,
come out later this year, and I was like, heck yeah! And then, nope.
yeah, I mean, that does. I'm honored though that you found it that way because that was part of my my hope is that people who are really into cozy mysteries would be interested in the board game element, get more into board games, but then also people who are pretty active in the board gaming community would that could be like a gateway into cozy mysteries for them. So I like seeing that kind of crossover happen.
Oh yeah, it was fun, and like I said, I've been reading another series. Oh, it's started with Arsenic and Adobo was the first book.
Oh yeah, yeah, Tita Rosie's Kitchen series.
That's what it is. Yes. Oh my gosh, I've read the first two. They're a hoot. Oh my gosh. I actually like the audiobooks for those because the woman who reads it is so funny.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
did
no, I love that series.
and I did see that you have an audiobook for this one.
Yes, yeah. One thing that's pretty cool about it is my husband was the narrator.
Oh, no kidding.
Hmm.
That's cool. Now I'm gonna have to try
Yeah,
to find that.
yeah. With him having a theater education background, he auditioned with I think it was Tantor Audio that produced it, and he got the part, which was exciting,
A little
especially
nepotism.
having that Utah accent.
Little nepotism there.
A little bit, but I feel like I mean, if he hadn't auditioned and he'd just gotten it, then yeah. But I mean, he earned the part.
Okay, yeah. That's awesome though. It's always fun like when there's like something funny like that, like Will Wheaton reads the Ready Player One and it talks about he has to read us like that paragraph talking about Will Wheaton and it's like that's gotta be awkward.
Yeah, yeah. I like it when it gets meta like that.
And this one is just your husband reading your book, which that has to be kind of weird though for you at the same time.
Yeah, it was interesting because he would ask me like, what kind of voice do you think I should do for this character? Like, what kind of vibes were you going for? So that was kind of fun in that I felt like I had a little bit more of a say in the audiobook than maybe the average author.
No, I bet that's an interesting thing. I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Hmm.
You had a little bit more influence than a normal audiobook author would have. That's pretty cool though.
Yeah, and it was exciting, like, being able to kind of see the behind the scenes of him going to the studio, what the process for that is like, and having to do like um, re-records of different areas. It's a lot more complicated than I thought it was. A lot of having to redo different scenes, and yeah, it was interesting.
And then he had the director they has to listen to, and no, more this, less that.
Yeah, no, exactly. There was a person in the studio like you need to enunciate this a little bit clearer, that kind of thing.
Yeah, watch your pacing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
do
You have to
some.
read. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I just gonna say I do some audiobooks for people that write uh, board game books that are nonfiction, and I go back and when I'm editing myself, and I'm like, ooh, I need to re-record that. I read that way too quick.
Hmm. It's always slower than you think it should be.
Oh, no kidding. That's for sure. Because like I always feel like I need to speak at my normal speed, but I also realize when I listen to audiobooks, I'm cranking them up to 1.25, 1.3, and
Yeah, no, same.
and then when you record, you're like, oh, I got to read this way slower so that people can understand what I'm saying.
Hmm. I had a boss back when I worked in person, and I got a ride home from him one day, and like he was listening to The Martian at 4 speed in his car.
At 4,
At 4 speed, it was the wildest thing I'd ever heard, and like he seemed fine with it, like he just listens to it like that normally.
he looks at you like, what?
Yeah, it made me so stressed. Like,
I
especially The Martian, like that's a pretty dense book.
well, that actually funny story. That's actually another book my son read on the vacation.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's a thick one.
he
That's
read that
impressive.
all in one day. We drove all the
Oh,
way to New Jersey in one day, 14 hours. I don't advise that, but he read The Martian on day one. But yeah, that's actually a good audiobook too. I have the audiobook and the hardback, so but I couldn't
that's good
imagine
to know.
listening to it at 4 speed. That's insane.
Yeah, I didn't get much of a sense of it other than it sounded like a chipmunk, but I'll have to listen to it at regular speed.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy. Oh
He was a
man.
very type A kind of guy, so I guess that makes sense for him, but I it was not for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm type A. I got ADD, but I don't think I could possibly focus on something talking at me that fast.
No.
Or maybe it's not so much that as much as I don't think I would enjoy it. It sounds like it'd be
Yeah,
stressful to listen to it.
yeah, it was from my perspective.
That's nuts. But to each their own, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Well, CJ, appreciate you coming on the show today. If anybody wanted to reach out to you, how can they do that?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at CJ Connor Writes. Also on Twitter/X, although I'm not quite as active on there these days. Those are the two best places. I also have a website, which is just cjconnorwrites.com. That's more for like bigger updates, like new books, that kind of thing.
Awesome. Yeah. And as usual, you guys can reach out to me at facebook.com/eatlunchandboardgame, eatlunchandboardgame.com, or you can always email me at eatlunchandboardgame@gmail.com. And remember, board games build bridges. When you're gaming, why not be comfy? Go over to supportplayer.org. Click on the cards, pieces, and dice to get some merch. These t-shirts are some of the most comfortable I have ever worn. That's supportplayer.org, and there's a link on eatlunchandboardgame.com.